Like I zipped out of my body into the center of the universe and all of a sudden understood absolutely everything about how this whole universe works. It was like, you're going back. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe, reincarnation is real. I'm going to go back and be a human baby, whatever it was. I mean, come on, really? Well, this actually tracks back into the Christianity that I know because Jesus meditated. It says right so in the Bible, 40 days, out in the desert. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll try it. And so I started meditating. I started calming my mind. And then I started reading more about Zen, which to me is more of a philosophy of mind mastery than anything. And I worked on using the 800-pound gorilla of my mind to tame the 800-pound gorilla of my mind. Because from a practical perspective, they just want to cease all conscious thought and then find out what happens next. And so that's what I focused on. I was like, I want to shut my mind completely down. I want to hear nothing but silence and then see what I can hear from there. And there's a crazy thing that happened that for the last 20 years, I've been trying to figure out what the physiology and the science is behind it. But a different experience of consciousness arose within me when I got to a point of complete quietude. And it blew my mind. It was so dramatic and life-changing and such a weird experience that I literally thought I was dying. Like I zipped out of my body into the center of the universe and all of a sudden understood absolutely everything about how this whole universe works, and like the crazy experience that came from shutting down conscious thought in my mind reset absolutely everything within me and brought me a ton of information that I didn't have like the day before. And so some of the stuff that I got out of it, and I talk about that experience in the blue book that I wrote, Volume 2 of Mind Hacking Happiness. So if you're interested in pick that up or whatever. But the information that I brought back from that was real, valid information on how the human mind works, how we create our own pain and suffering, like the process that we go through to create our pain and suffering. And I put it into a theory, and I was just another guy with a theory on, here's how your pain and suffering works. But I put it into a very specific logical process flow of values and groupings of things and the process that your mind follows to create your bullshit. And I call it your mental bullshit. And then between 2007 and 2013, all the science came out, the peer-reviewed, published major journal science that proved every bit of what I had come back with correct.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so then I was like, okay, so now this raises a whole bunch of other questions in my mind but besides having a practical understanding of how you create your own pain and suffering and bullshit and how you can turn it down, et cetera. Now science has proven that that's correct. Okay, so now a whole new set of questions comes like, where did that come from? Like what information did I tap into that allowed me, a guy who has, a psychology 101 course in his past from a community college at some point, to come with a model that can explain the human mind and how it works?
Well, before we move into the next set of questions,
yeah.
I have two questions. I want to say them out loud because I'll forget. But one, how long did it take you to get into that type of meditation? How long did it take you? So I'd like to talk about that. Two, what was the initial download? So let's start with one.
Okay. So one, it wasn't very long because I just went at it. In fact, it was less than 2 months that I started meditating that this weird thing occurred. And then I zipped out of my body and went off into the middle of the universe and understood everything. And then when I was coming back, I was losing a lot of it. I was losing all the stuff that I understood. I was coming back into my existence. In fact, one of the portions of the existence was, okay, time to go back. And I was like, what do you mean go back? I was like, I don't want to go back. What are you talking about? And then it was like, you're going back. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe, reincarnation is real. I'm going to go back and be a human baby, whatever it was. And then I realized I was coming back to my body, my existence. And I was like, well, that sucks. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah.
I'm here in the middle of everything and I understand everything and I got to be one with the whole universe and yada, yada, and you're putting me back in this shit? And it's, but But then, I started losing a lot of stuff, and I was like, no, wait. I don't want to lose everything. You can't just show this to me and not allow me to help folks. And it was the feeling that I got was like, well, what do you want? And I was like, well, let's knock out this pain and suffering thing. Let's knock out, the human limitation of being controlled by fear and controlled by anger and controlled by sadness and all the things that like limit our existence and stop us from being, joyful and happy all the time. And the kind of feeling, the message I got back was like, yeah, okay, so you aren't the first. And that was kind of a joke, kind of a poke at, a lot of the other masters dipped into the same thing and look what they did. I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot anyway. We'll see what happens. And so it was just within a couple months, though.
A couple of months you were able to tap in?
Yeah.
I've been meditating off and on I started after my first psychedelic experience, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And that was roughly a year and 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And I've felt the oneness one time.
Yeah.
And that was meditating outside in nature. I'm just going to tell you what I do, you know, and maybe you can critique me because I want to go to the center of the universe.
I know, right?
In meditation. So I put headphones on. I listen to frequency music like the stuff we were listening when we were setting up the photo shoot and everything for this episode. I do that, and then have you ever heard of a Rife machine?
Yeah.
So I know you're very familiar with frequency. So I put a Rife machine on, and I put it on my feet. Sometimes I put it on my hands. Sometimes I put it on both. So basically, for those listening who don't know what a Rife machine is, a Rife machine sends a series of frequencies through your body, and it's kind of holistic medicine.
Yeah.
And you probably know a lot more about this than I do.
I just got a Royal delivered to my house, the Royal Rife machine.
Really?
Yeah.
So from what I understand, the Rife machine, it does all kinds of good things for you, but it can break up bacteria, it can break up viruses. They say it can break up cancers, cancer cells, and from what I understand, it's also very grounding. It puts you at the right frequency that we're supposed to be operating at. I even put a grounding sheet on my bed.
Wow.
Do you know what a grounding sheet is?
Yeah, totally. I tried to buy one. I got one off of Amazon, and it wasn't really doing a whole lot. And I tested it with a multimeter. It wasn't even connected. Like they were selling a sham. Like they, I believe in the science because I've read the reports and read the studies. Like that's real science, real stuff that'll help you. But the stuff they sell on Amazon doesn't, like the ground doesn't have a connection to the mat.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, I've been looking for a new one then. but yeah, so that's, and then I have a bad back, so I sit in a love sack.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.